So I saw this and I wanted to go over it because this guy kind of drives me nuts, and I like the South Park episode on this. South Park episode on this was pretty funny. Um, these what are they? I think the boat's called the Steve Irwin or something like that, isn't it? Um, this guy, this animal welfare guy. Let's see, Captain Paul Watson Foundation said that more than a dozen police boarded the vessel and led Watson away in handcuffs when it stopped to refuel. That's not good. I should have paid attention to that. Maybe I wouldn't be struggling here. All right, Berlin. Greenland said they arrested a veteran environmental activist and anti-whaling campaigner on Sunday on international arrest warrant issued by Japan. Paul Watson was arrested when his ship docked in Nuuk, Greenland's capital. Nuuk? Nuuk? Is that how you say it? A police statement said. He will be brought before a district court with a request to detain him pending a decision on his possible extradition to Japan, the statement said. The Captain Paul Watson Foundation said that more than a dozen police boarded the vessel and led Watson away in handcuffs when it stopped to refuel. The foundation said the ship, along with 25 volunteer crew members, was en route to the North Pacific on a mission to intercept a new Japanese whaling ship. I did cover that ship very recently. They're going to harvest fin whales, I believe, is what it was now. The arrest is believed to be related to a former red notice issued for Captain Watson previous anti-whaling interventions in the Antarctic region, the Foundation said in an emailed statement. We implore the Danish government to release Captain Watson and not entertain this politically motivated request. Lockie McLean, what a name. Lockie McLean, the Foundation director, said in a statement. Greenland is an autonomous territory of Denmark. Watson. Oh, my light just went out. However, it also has brought him into confrontation with authorities. He was detained in Germany in 2012 on a Costa Rican extradition warrant, but skipped bail after learning that he also sought for extradition. He was also sought for extradition by Japan, which has accused him of endangering whalers' lives during operations in the Antarctic Ocean. He has since lived in countries including France and the United States. Watson, who left Sea Shepherd in 2022 to establish his own organization, was also a leading member of Greenpeace, but left in 1977 amid disagreements over his aggressive tactics. You know, if your tactics are too aggressive for Greenpeace, you're a little wacky. According to this foundation, Watson's current ship, the M.Y. John Paul de Joria, was due to sail through the Northwest Passage to the North Pacific to confront a newly built Japanese factory whaling ship, a murderous enemy devoid of compassion and empathy, hell-bent on destroying the most intelligent, self-aware, sentient beings in the sea. Okay, so what did he? No reason to engage in any whaling, commercial, private, or in the name of science. It's just greed. I agree with you. Whaling is not a good thing. It's not. Unfortunately, if a country wants to do it, there's very little you can do in to stop them. There's physically harming somebody is still not an answer, even if you don't like the whaling situation, which I understand. But but what he does is usually not the answer. I wonder what he did. So what his name is? Oh my God, what was his name again? Watson, Paul Watson. Okay, let's see. What did Paul Watson do in Antarctica to the Japanese? Um, is there anything newer? Okay, Paul Watson, 2%. Okay, this was from 2010. No, I'm not paying you. Friday at 10:30. Yeah, short of declaring war, there's basically nothing you can do. And we're not going to declare war on Japan for hunting whales. That's just, it's not worth war, unfortunately. Friday at 10:30, 61. Paul Watson is on the bridge of the Steve Irwin, streaming due east. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, roughly 100 miles ahead of the former Scottish Environmental Protection Agency patrol boat, now painting black and flying a Jolly Roger, is the bulk of the Japanese whaling fleet. Mothership, 4 harpoon hunters, license to kill, blah, 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 behind there. Meanwhile, at the bottom of the Southern Ocean is the Andy Gill, the third ship in Captain Watson's anti-whaling navy. The 2.5 million space-age catamaran-style biofuel power ocean-going speedboat sank on Friday morning after being hit by a Shonen Maru 2 after being hit by the Shonen Maru 2, one of the Japanese whalers. So a whaling boat hit their boat and sank it. Not hit, deliberately rammed, correct Watson. I wonder why. See, here's the worst part about all of this. I don't want to defend this guy. And I'm not going to. I don't want to defend any of them. I don't want to defend the Japanese here. Because the Japanese are killing whales. There's no excuse for killing whales. And then you can get into the whole argument and there's no excuse to kill any animal. And it's a very complicated thing. But I don't think whales are something that should be hunted. But at the same time, there's plenty of people who think that eating meat in general is bad altogether. Sentience be damned. Like, it's a very difficult and weird situation. Going out and trying to stop somebody who is legally doing something, as much as you might not like it, as far as I know, it's not. If they're. Look into that. I don't know the legality of hunting whales, to be quite honest. The whole thing. I know a lot of animals will be endangered species, and I don't think you can touch them. But what would happen if you did? If Japan said, no, screw it, we're just going to kill all the whales. What would happen then? I traveled once to Sea Shepherd Society to Scotland to the Faroe Islands in '99. Watson was even then a notorious figure on, like, Captain Nemo. It sounds like they're blowing him because they're so, like, oh my god, you're so awesome. You're fighting the good fight. He does terrible things, too, from my understanding. This week, Watson got full praise for the 77 people in 60 countries who were crewing his 3 ships this year. In 30 years of harassing industrial fishers, he has taken 4,000 volunteers to Antarctica, the Pacific, and the Atlantic to try to stop whaling, sealing, and illegal fishing. Few have returned anything other than inspired and committed. Okay. The sinking of the Gill was just the latest skirmish. Blah blah blah. Duh. Nothing here. One of the. What did he do? Wait, we are obsessed with stopping the cetacean Death Star, that vicious, cruel killing machine, and our fleets of boats armed with explosive harpoons, said Watson. But what precisely happened last week is still not clear. It has been subject to official protest by both vessels and will investigated by the Australian and Japanese governments, and possibly one or more courts. From videos released by both Watson and the Japanese in the last 48 hours, appears that Shonen Maru bore down on the Gill with its water cannon blasting and issued warnings from the loudspeaker that it had authority to repel. No one disputes that it then sliced through the bow of the Gill, scattering its crew of 6. The Japanese accuse Sea Shepherd of being hostile eco-terrorists. The Sea Shepherd extremist is becoming more violent. Their actions are nothing but felonious behavior, aiming directly to the Nishin Maru crew. The activists have repeatedly fired illegal high-powered laser devices that can reduce blindness when irradiated to the naked eye, and have fired projectiles containing butyric acid, a substance highly hazardous to the human body, including skin and eyes, said a spokesman for the Institute. Yesterday's lawyers working on behalf of Sea Shepherd lodged papers in the Dutch court accusing the Japanese of piracy and violence. They in turn dismissed his statement as lies and accused Sea Shepherds of pollution and using bows and arrows. Jesus Christ. Um, both anti-bombing countries. This year, the Japanese fleet position was relayed to Sea Shepherd, not unofficially by the Australian Navy. Okay. Um, I wonder. Sea Shepherd arrested. Anti. Okay, that's fine. What? What? Who will stop you from illegally harvesting an animal? If it's the open ocean. Let's see. What are the laws against whaling in international waters? Let's see. Okay, animal law. Let's see this. Um, Marine Mammal Protection Act in 1972, the United States Congress passed the Marine Mammal Protection Act. The act makes it illegal for any person residing in the United States to kill, hunt, injure, or harass all species of marine and mammals, regardless of the population status. In addition, the MMPA also makes it illegal for anyone to import marine mammals or products made from them to the United States. The endangered all of the great whales are listed as endangered species under the ESA. As a result, it is illegal to kill, hunt, collect, injure, or harass them, or to destruct their habitat in any way. It is illegal to buy or sell any whales. Um. Okay. International laws. Okay, here we go. This is what I'm looking for. In 1946, the International Whaling Convention was established to oversee the management of the whaling industry worldwide. It was established in response to the rapid decline in the population of whales from whaling. In 1986, the IWC instituted an indefinite ban on commercial whale. This ban is still in effect, with certain exceptions. Countries such as Japan and Norway have not honored the ban, so it's just a ban. But if you don't have to honor it, then it's not a law. Established responsible. Um, CITES is an international treaty that provides protection for animals and plant species in international trade. It is designed to promote the conservation of endangered species, while the United Nations Sea impose the duty of nations that have signed the treaty. First, they have a duty to conserve marine mammals. Second, they have a duty to follow international convention guidelines. The duty imposed on UNCLOS is thought to be stronger than the obligations imposed under the International Whaling Convention. Net regulations, okay. Pollution, whale watching, that's fine. But so that doesn't really answer my question. The International Whaling Commission, let's see. The International Whaling Commission was established in 1946. International Convention of the Regulation of Whaling to provide for the proper conservation of whale stocks and orderly development of the whaling industry. The Commission meets this mandate in part by reviewing and, as necessary, revising the measures outlined in the legally binding schedule included in the convention. The Commission also conducts activities related to cetacean conservation. The Commission normally meets every other year to review the conditions of whale stocks and to modify conservation measures as appropriate. Currently, there are 88 contracting governments. The United States has been an active member of the Commission and has served as a depository government since the Commission's establishment. Um, the United States has been an active member. Okay, that's fine. Regulating of whaling under the IWC. There are generally three types of whaling commission regulations: commercial, scientific research, and aboriginal subsistence whaling. Commercial whaling. In 1986, a global moratorium or a temporary ban on commercial whaling was adopted due to the over exploitation of whale stocks. The Commission has also designed sanctuary areas in the Indian and Southern Oceans where commercial whaling is not allowed. Although the moratorium is still in place, some countries such as Norway and Iceland continue to engage in commercial whaling activities. Norway objects to the moratorium, and Iceland has a reservation to the moratorium that allows it to continue commercial whaling. Okay, what is the exact... What's the definition of moratorium to give? So it's not a law, a temporary prohibition of an activity. Law, a legal authorization to debtors and postpone. So a temporary prohibition of the activity. So temporary suspension, but it's not like an actual law. It's just saying don't do this. Scientific research whaling, Article 7 of the conventions allow contracting governments to issue special permits authorizing the taking of whales for purposes of scientific research. Japan's lethal scientific research in the North Pacific and Southern Oceans under such special permits ended in 2019 with their withdrawal from the convention. So if they can just withdraw, there's no way to legitimately do anything about it. The commission also regulates Aboriginal subsistence whaling. Currently, the commission permits indigenous communities in Denmark, the Russian Federation, St. Vincent, and the Grenadines in the United States to engage this type of whaling on certain whale stocks. The United States is subject to domestic legal requirements and works with the indigenous communities in Alaska and Washington State to ensure the catch limits established through the commission meet their cultural and subsistence need. Washington State has whaling? Japanese use the scientific excuse to get around the commercial whaling ban or moratorium. Yeah, I understand that. I understand they use it. My question is, who actually would do anything if someone illegally was whaling? Would anyone actually legitimately get in trouble? Or would it be like a specific country that it happened in, they would have to worry about their laws? Like, what if someone's in international waters? Who actually does anything to stop whaling? Rule of science. Okay. That's my question. Who actually does anything? Because if no one's actually going to do anything, does any of it matter? The future of cetaceans in the changing world. International amendments. Report of whaling activities conducted by nations of islands. Message from the President of the United States. One of the tribes in Washington conducts a whaling ceremony. I didn't know that. I knew about the Inuits in Alaska. International protection, marine hearing and market. Okay, no, that's not helping commercial whaling. International Convention for the regulation of whaling. Establish a new. Okay, that's not helping me. So, who prosecutes whalers in international waters? Who enforced the International Convention for the Regulation of Whaling? Okay, here we go. Hopefully this is it. Preservationist NGOs, as well as by much general public opinion, whaling in any form is seen as an unnecessary and indeed immoral activity which should, at least as an eventual objective, be permanently banned. Okay, one of the factors that has been suggested as detrimental to the effectiveness of the Whaling Convention is its advanced age. The was negotiated and structured almost 70 years ago, and its main provisions were based on two pre war treaties from 1931 and 1937. The basis structure of the convention reflects the approaches to environmental matters for the period when it was negotiated, and as such, it was not based on principles that characterize the contemporary approach to environmental protection. It may be argued that the imposition of the moratorium on whaling and its continuation is an expression of the application of the precautionary principle within the IWC. One of the major weaknesses of the ICRW is its very rudimentary international enforcement mechanism. The main responsibility for the enforcement of the provisions of the convention remains with the parties to the convention. According to Article 4, a state party to the ICRW is in charge of its enforcement in respect to actions of persons under its jurisdiction as for the prosecution of its violations. So, from reading that, my understanding is that the only, like, if somebody is caught whaling illegally, the only ones that can actually do something about it are, like, if they're in a certain area's waters. So, like, if someone was whaling in the United States could prosecute them. But what about international waters? The IWC now has to attempt to operate as a forum within its irreconcilable conflicts of interest are resolved. The aspirations of the whaling nations as they stand at present simply cannot be met without some level, however contained, of resumption of commercial whaling. On the other hand, the aspirations of the preservationists, now a majority within the IWC, cannot be entirely fulfilled unless the possibility of a resumption of commercial whaling is abandoned. Therefore, the most important and daunting question is whether the ICRW is still a relevant international instrument, or whether would it have to be revised or even abandoned as an absolute treaty, given that it is falling short of meeting the current set of needs of the parties to it. The lack of common understanding and the acrimonious atmosphere between the members of the Whaling Commission has had a paralyzing effect on the function of the Commission and has led to international litigations discussed in the next section. So basically, no one can do anything about people that are whaling. Whaling in Antarctica case. Okay, one of the most incendiary questions under the ICRW has become Japanese scientific whaling. Oh, it's going to talk about this. Which led to the whaling in Antarctica in 2014. The judgment and its implication. Okay. Both Australia and New Zealand alleged that Japanese scientific whaling was in fact not in purpose of scientific whaling. The court agreed and ordered Japan to withdraw all pending scientific permits. The court's judgment only applied to this particular scientific whaling by Japan and will not affect any future whaling. In its judgment, the ICJ reiterated its view of JARPA 2 appeared to involve activities that could broadly be characterized as part of scientific research, but that the evidence was insufficient to establish that the program's design and implementation were reasonable in relation to achieving its stated objectives. The ICJ concluded that the special permits granted by Japan for the killing, taking, and treating of whales in connection with JARPA 2 had been for purpose of scientific research. However, the ICJ was in the view that Japan had met the requirements of paragraph 30 of the Schedule to International Conventions for the regulation of whaling with regard to JARPA 2 program. Okay. So they were like questioning it, that's fine. judgment whaling in Japan. Oh wait, I. The question to whether ICJ is an appropriate forum to discuss scientific questions concerning whaling is arose. Both judges Wanda and Abraham suggested that the ICJ lacked the required expertise to do so. Okay, there's also the issue of application of standard objective reasonableness. What was the role of the ICJ in applying such a standard in this case, engaging in de novo review or leaving this to the discretion afforded to states issuing permits, which is subject to review by the scientific committee? Okay. Lawyers frequently do not feel comfortable with science. Certainly, whaling issues cannot be discussed without science in the whaling case. All the experts appearing before the court were scientists, and their evidence played a fundamental role in the court's judgment. The functioning of the IWC is based on science, and one of the main issues that has been repeatedly raised in connection with its work is the purported lack of sound scientific basis for decision making. Generally speaking, the role of science and environmental law is very complex. Overall, we witness a trend in the valorization of science and, more particularly, science based policy making. Your shorts make me sick. Cool. I'm glad. And hopefully, it's not COVID. In various instances of interstate cooperation, be it in a treaty. Okay, so this still. Is that why the Sea Shepherd has to be the one to do any of this stuff? International Convention of. How does maritime law. Wait. Maybe this. How does maritime law enforcement work in international waters? Maritime law enforcement and the laws of the seas are regulated by a number of different countries. In addition, there are several international agreements for extending laws to international waters. International waters of the high seas make up a large portion of the waters found on Earth. While some people. No, I don't need a lawyer. While some people might believe that they are free from any laws when they're in the high seas, they are not. There are several global agreements in places, as well as these laws help define international waters. These protesters get labeled as pirates. I mean, here's the problem. From everything I'm reading, I don't think not one country has legal jurisdiction over international waters. So I haven't seen a great answer. This means that there are certain situations where a nation can exert its law over national waters. Okay. I don't think, legally speaking, there's much that anyone can do about Japan whaling in international waters. I don't think there's really anything that can be done. The lovable pirates, the legal implications of law and policy. Wait. I don't. It's not really coming out and saying it is the problem. Who prosecutes whalers in international waters? According is in charge of its enforcement in respect to actions of persons under its jurisdiction as a prosecution of its violations. So, like, we just looked at it. A state party to the ICRW is in charge of its enforcement in respect to actions of persons under its jurisdiction as from prosecution of its violations. So, I don't. It doesn't look like there's anything that can really be done if Japan wants to whale, and if that's the case, if there's legally nothing that can be done, and the Sea Shepherd, the protesters, whatever, they go out and they try to stop the Japanese, technically that they would be technically the protesters would be breaking the law because you can't just attack somebody or stop them from doing something that's technically not like enforceable. I don't agree with it, but that doesn't matter. It's let's see, ICRW Article 4. Let's see. Okay, that's not helping. That's the same article. International Convention of Regulation of Whaling. Article 4. Commissions may either in collaboration with or through independent agencies of the contracting governments or other public or private agencies, establishments, or organizations, or independently encourage, recommend, or, if necessary, organize studies and investigations relating to whales and whaling, collect and analyze statistical information concerning the current conditions and trend of the whale stocks and the effects of whaling activities thereon. Study, appraise, and disseminate information concerning methods of maintaining and increasing the population of whale stocks. 2. The Commission shall arrange for the publication of reports of its activities, and it may publish independently or in collaboration with the International Bureau of Whaling Statistics at Sandefjord in Norway and other organizations and agencies such reports as it deems appropriate, as well as statistical, scientific, and other pertinent information relating to the whales and whaling. That's just the scientific part of it. Article 3, the contracting governments agree to establish an international whaling commission, referred to as. Let's see. Who can legally stop someone from whaling? Any person resident in the United legal. Okay, that's fine. Well, yeah, but despite a worldwide ban, that's not a law, though, is it? Operational subsistence, federal laws. I like if you killed a whale in the United States, the United States would do something, but prohibits the taking of any animal within the sanctuary, the marine endangered species. The ESA prohibits the take of threatened or endangered species in U.S. territorial waters. Okay. Yeah, but this doesn't mean anything. Who prosecutes people who kill endangered species in international waters? How you doing, Brett? I don't. U.S. pseudo or policy. I don't. Recent challenge to policy on prosecuting indeed. I don't think none of this stuff is going to help. I really don't think that there's much you can do. Unless I'm wrong, unless someone has that information. There's nothing that comes up here. Thank you for the likes and all that. I don't see anything that actually helps with this situation. So if Japan wants to whale, I don't think there's legally anybody who can stop them from doing it. Unless I'm completely wrong here, but that's what it seems like. Unless they did it in like another country's waters. Doing well, hope the same for you. Ah, I'm doing pretty good. I can't complain. So yeah, that's what it seems like to me. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's what it seems. And basically, when the Sea Shepherd and all these people go out and try to stop them, technically, if there's no one who can, like, it's a weird legal gray area because technically speaking, the Sea Shepherd has no legal right to stop them. They're just doing it on their own. So technically, you could call them pirates because they're they're pirateering, I guess. Like they're trying to stop. I don't know what what's the actual definition of a pirate. The definition of a pirate: a person who attacks or robs a ship at sea, a person who appropriates or reproduces the work of another for use or reproduce to profit without permission, rob or plunder. What is plunder? The definition of plunder: steal goods, typically using force, steal, take material, use violent and dishonest acquisition of property. So they would have to be stealing. So basically, you have to actually take something. You would have to actually wait. What classifies you as a pirate? A pirate is a robber who travels by water. Okay, that's fine. But like, so would stopping them from whaling technically be considered robbing them? Because if that's the case, technically they would be pirates. But if you don't consider them stopping them from getting a whale as robbing, then I don't think that's the same thing. Oh, very interesting. Very interesting. Anti whaling man arrested. Paul Watson.